After 50 years, Priscilla Presley gave the shocking go-ahead to open Elvis Presley's tomb. And what was discovered inside left the world speechless. From sealed letters to a mysterious locket and a chilling confession, this wasn't just history reopened, it was Elvis himself, speaking from beyond the grave. Priscilla gives the green light to open the tomb. For nearly 50 years, the tomb of Elvis Presley at Graceland had remained untouched, sealed in marble, locked in myth, and guarded by silence. But in June 2025, the world learned that everything was about to change. Priscilla Presley, the woman who had once held the king's heart, made a decision that stunned fans, family, and historians alike. She approved the official opening of Elvis's tomb. The public reason given was simple: structural preservation. Officials claimed moisture buildup beneath the tomb needed to be examined for long-term restoration efforts. But insiders whispered a different story. They said this wasn't about concrete or drainage. It was about closure. Personal closure. And Priscilla was finally ready. She signed off on the request quietly, months earlier, under tight legal protections. The paperwork included NDAs signed by the Tennessee State Historic Office, independent forensic analysts, and a legal team representing the Presley estate. No press release, no fanfare, just one scheduled date, one morning, and one mission. The chosen day was July 9th, 2025, selected specifically for its low tourist traffic and media silence. It was a Tuesday, just after sunrise. Temperatures were mild, skies were clear, and Graceland was closed to the public for what the estate called routine grounds inspection. But in truth, something historic was unfolding just beyond the gates. Priscilla wasn't present, but those close to her say she spent the night before in quiet reflection at her Los Angeles home, holding on to the final letter Elvis ever wrote her. A letter she never showed the world. "He's not just buried in that tomb," one source said. "He's buried in memory. And sometimes, memory needs air." As news of the tomb's opening leaked, speculation exploded online. Was Elvis still really buried there? Was the coffin ever occupied at all? Would they find something that proves the rumors were true? That he faked his death or left clues behind? For fans who had believed for decades that Elvis lives, this was the moment they'd been waiting for. But no one was ready for what was actually found. Because when the marble lid was lifted, it wasn't just a tomb, it was a time capsule. The day the tomb was opened. The early morning of July 9th, 2025 was eerily still. By 6:45 a.m., a white tent had been erected above Elvis Presley's final resting place in the meditation garden at Graceland. A tight circle of approved personnel stood by, including forensic scientists, structural engineers, attorneys representing the Presley family, and a few estate preservationists. Nearby, cameras rolled quietly, not for live broadcast, but for documentation. History was about to unfold in silence. The marble slab covering Elvis's tomb was heavier than expected. It took several reinforced lifts and nearly 30 minutes to remove it without damage. Beneath it, the original burial vault remained sealed, undisturbed since August 18, 1977. But something else caught their attention almost immediately. To the left of the casket was a sealed lead container, tucked neatly against the vault wall. It wasn't on any official record. It wasn't mentioned in any burial plan, and it wasn't decorative. It was deliberate. With permission from legal representatives, the team carefully extracted the container. It was a time capsule, marked simply preserve for the future. Inside were personal effects, some weathered, some pristine, and some that would rewrite how the world viewed the king of rock and roll. Back outside the gates, word began to spread. Though the event was meant to be private, a few devoted fans had gathered early after hearing rumors of unusual security. Signs reading, "We still believe," and "Long live the king," fluttered in the wind as whispers turned into news flashes. Meanwhile, inside the tomb, preservation experts opened the burial vault. The casket itself was untouched, aged but preserved. Its position, angle, and condition all aligned with original 1977 funeral records. There was no indication it had ever been moved or tampered with. But it was what they found inside the vault, alongside the casket, that sent shockwaves around the world. There were photographs, handwritten notes, unreleased lyrics, and something even more haunting. A letter. A sealed envelope, slightly yellowed with time, marked in Elvis's unmistakable handwriting. To be opened when the world is ready. Inside that letter were the raw, unfiltered thoughts of a man at war with his fame. "Sometimes I feel like a ghost in my own life," he wrote. "I hope one day they see the man, not just the crown." The letter wasn't proof that Elvis faked his death. It was something more powerful. It was the truth he was never allowed to say out loud, and it was just the beginning. A coffin, a body, and a secret letter. When the sealed burial vault was finally opened, everyone held their breath. At the center was the coffin of Elvis Presley, remarkably preserved. Experts expected the usual: skeletal remains, official documentation, maybe some burial garments. But what they discovered inside the vault alongside the casket went far beyond protocol. It was deeply personal. Stacked in custom-lined boxes were hundreds of handwritten items, love letters, family photos, never-before-seen jewelry, and astonishingly handwritten lyrics. These weren't reprints. They were originals, ink fading, paper delicate, and all written in Elvis's unmistakable script. Titles no one had ever heard: "Fade to Spirit," "Love in the Quiet," "The End of Me." But there was one item that stood out above them all: a sealed letter, addressed not to a person, but to time itself. On the outside, Elvis had written in black marker, "To be opened when the world is ready." The decision to open it wasn't taken lightly. Family lawyers debated for over an hour. Some said it was private, sacred. Others argued that if Elvis left it behind, he wanted it read. Eventually, it was Priscilla, from afar, who gave her quiet consent. Inside the envelope was a 4-page handwritten letter, dated August 11, 1977, just 6 days before his death. The tone was quiet, reflective, painfully human. "Sometimes I feel like a ghost in my own life," Elvis wrote. "I gave the world everything, and now I don't know who I am without it. I miss being a man, I miss being real." He talked about his loneliness, his struggles with health, and his need for space from the legend he'd become. There were no confessions of escape, no death hoax clues, just the raw thoughts of a man crumbling under the weight of a global persona. One line struck the heart of every reader: "If I go soon, I just want them to remember I was more than the stage." It was the goodbye Elvis never got to say. The world didn't find a conspiracy in that tomb. They found something far more powerful: his voice, unfiltered and finally heard. The media erupted, fans wept. Online forums turned from theory to tribute. As one historian noted, This wasn't the King of Rock. This was just Elvis saying goodbye. But science had one more truth to deliver, and it would silence every lingering doubt. DNA and forensics confirm the unbelievable. While emotions ran high and the public devoured the letter's contents, the team of forensic experts inside Graceland turned to the next task, verifying once and for all whether the body inside the casket truly belonged to Elvis Presley. There had always been whispers. Conspiracy theorists claimed the 1977 funeral was staged, that the body in the coffin looked too perfect, that Elvis faked his death and lived out his days in secret. Now, science would finally answer the question that had echoed for decades. The first test involved detailed skeletal analysis. The remains matched Elvis's medical records: height, jaw shape, and most significantly, a fractured left pinky bone from a childhood injury. That small, hidden fracture had only been documented once, in a 1949 X-ray from Tupelo, Mississippi. And it was there. Next came dental comparison. The remains showed a unique gold crown installed in 1976, as well as a distinctive alignment of molars seen in his final dental records. Again, a perfect match. But it was the DNA test that delivered the final word. Tissue samples were tested against two known relatives: his mother, Gladys Presley, whose hair samples were preserved at a Mississippi archive, and his daughter, the late Lisa Marie Presley. The result? A 99.9998% match. One of the forensic team leaders made a public statement the next morning. The man buried at Graceland is Elvis Aaron Presley. There is no scientific doubt. This is the king. Still, some die-hard theorists refused to believe it. The hashtag #sign Elvis Lives spiked again on social media. Conspiracy forums claimed the DNA was planted, the coffin was switched, or the letter was a calculated distraction. But mainstream science, family records, and decades of burial documentation were now publicly aligned for the first time in half a century. Every test said the same thing. Elvis never left. He never ran. He was there the whole time. For millions, it was a relief, the closing of a chapter they had never been ready to finish. For others, it was a bittersweet goodbye. But one thing was certain: the truth was no longer a mystery. And next, the investigation would turn towards something even murkier: the conspiracies that surrounded the funeral itself. The empty coffin theory is finally debunked. For decades, one of the wildest and most persistent rumors in music history clung to Elvis Presley's legacy like a shadow. That the coffin at his funeral in 1977 was empty. Fans swore the body didn't look right. They said the skin looked too smooth, like wax, and that the coffin was unusually heavy, weighing over 900 pounds, nearly double the expected weight. Some believed it was part of a cover-up, that Elvis had staged his death, vanished, and left a decoy behind. The theory only grew stronger in the 80s and 90s, fueled by grainy photographs, grainier memories, and late-night TV specials. Whispers of a cooling system installed in the coffin added fuel. People claimed the security footage at Graceland was turned off during key moments of the funeral. Even former employees claimed to have seen things that didn't add up. But in July 2025, the truth finally caught up with the myth. As forensic experts fully examined the burial site during the tomb opening, their focus turned to what many thought they'd never get to verify: the state of the coffin itself. What they found was clear, conclusive, and unshakable. The burial casket was original and intact. There was no evidence of tampering, no false bottom, no extra equipment or hidden compartments. Inside were the remains of Elvis Presley, verified by dental records, skeletal analysis, and DNA matching. Everything aligned perfectly with what was recorded in 1977. And the coffin's weight? Preservation experts explained it was custom-built with steel-reinforced casing and humidity-regulating interior features. Standard for celebrity burials of the era. Heavy, yes. Mysterious? Not anymore. As for the infamous cooling system, nothing was found. No wiring, no power source, no mechanism. Just rumors, finally put to rest. A report released by the Graceland Preservation Trust stated, "All materials, contents, and conditions within the vault are consistent with original burial protocols in August 1977. No indication of substitution or fraudulent handling has been found." For believers of the hoax, it was a devastating blow. For many others, it was closure. The king hadn't run. He hadn't hidden. He had simply been buried, with care, with mystery, and with stories that refused to die. But one person who never truly bought into the mystery? The woman who knew him best. And it turns out, she knew more than she ever let on. What Priscilla knew all along. In the weeks following the tomb's opening, attention turned back to Priscilla Presley. After all, she had been the one to approve the exhumation. And while she remained silent for days, family insiders and close friends began to reveal a deeper story. Priscilla hadn't been looking for answers. She already had them. According to court-sealed estate files later made public, Priscilla had helped place several personal items inside Elvis's casket back in 1977. Among them, a black onyx ring, a family Bible, a handwritten note from Lisa Marie, and one item no one ever expected to see again. A sealed letter from Elvis addressed to her. That letter, discovered during the recent tomb examination, was private. But the Presley estate confirmed its existence. Written just weeks before Elvis's death, it contained a line that pierced through decades of speculation. "I'm tired, but I still love this world, and I love you." Sources say Priscilla wept when she learned the letter had been found. "That wasn't meant for the world," one longtime friend shared. "It was his last true goodbye, and she never wanted to let it go." Others believe Priscilla visited the tomb privately the night before the official opening. Surveillance footage reportedly shows her car arriving at a back gate around 3:12 a.m. and leaving just before sunrise. She left no statement, no words, just silence, and maybe one last moment alone with the man she once loved. Publicly, when she did finally speak, her message was brief but powerful. Elvis wanted to be remembered the right way. Now he will be. Those who know her say she wasn't surprised by what was found in the tomb. The letters, the personal items, even the emotional weight of it all. She had protected his memory for 50 years, guarding both his legacy and his vulnerability. Now, by opening the tomb, she had given that legacy back to the world. But even as the public processed this unprecedented moment in music history, one last item inside the tomb was still making headlines. A letter not to Priscilla, but to everyone. And it was about to ignite the internet like wildfire. The hidden letter that shook the internet. It was the kind of artifact historians dream about, and the kind of confession that fans never expected. The letter marked "to be opened only when the world is ready" wasn't just a relic. It was a message from Elvis Presley to the future, and the moment it was read, everything changed. Written in early August 1977, just days before his death, The letter was found sealed in a thin manila envelope, wedged beneath his favorite guitar, a worn-out Gibson J200, also buried in the vault. The handwriting was unmistakable. The paper, lined, slightly yellowed, was verified as Elvis's personal Graceland stationery. But it was the content that hit hardest. "I don't know who I am anymore. Elvis Presley is the name they know, but I'm not sure I ever knew that man." What followed was 4 pages of raw, unfiltered emotion. He spoke about loneliness, about fame being a prison, and about the constant pressure to perform even when he was at his lowest. He described looking in the mirror and not recognizing the man staring back. One line stunned readers across the globe. "I think about just walking away, disappearing, becoming a real person again, somewhere quiet." Those few words reignited every conspiracy theory ever written. Was this a hint that he had planned to fake his death? Was he confessing to a secret exit strategy? Or was it simply the cry of a man overwhelmed by his own myth? Experts who analyzed the letter, including forensic linguists and handwriting analysts, confirmed its authenticity. Every comma, every curve of the pen matched his previous personal writings. Even the ink had degraded at a natural rate, consistent with the letter's alleged age. Within 3 hours, the hashtag Elvis letter was trending in over 40 countries. Fans posted reactions, theories, and tearful tributes. Others shared clips of Elvis speaking about inner struggle in old interviews, now given new meaning. One music journalist said, "It wasn't just a letter. It was a mirror. Elvis was telling us what fame really cost him." Some still refused to believe it. Skeptics online claimed the letter was planted to drive attention, a final PR move decades in the making. But the Presley estate responded swiftly, sharing archived images of similar notes Elvis had written to his spiritual advisor in 1976, all matching in tone and paper. The emotional impact was undeniable. For many, this was Elvis's final song, written not with music, but with truth. It wasn't about escape or myth. It was about the burden of being the king. But behind the curtain of Elvis's pain, another figure loomed. A man many had blamed in whispers but never in headlines. That was about to change. Colonel Tom Parker's shadow over the mystery. While the world digested the heartbreaking letter, another name began rising from the shadows of history. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis Presley's longtime manager, mentor, and, as many would argue, his greatest mistake. For decades, Parker was seen as a shrewd showman. He booked the deals, controlled the media, and built Elvis into a global phenomenon. But after the tomb was opened, new evidence suggested that Parker's grip on Elvis didn't end with his death, and may have extended into the narrative that followed. According to newly declassified estate documents, Parker was the sole decision-maker for Elvis's funeral arrangements. He reportedly limited access, approved the coffin choice, and insisted on specific funeral photography angles. A preservationist working at the time claimed Parker controlled every inch of the goodbye, and he didn't want it to feel final. Now, insiders believe it wasn't just about protecting Elvis's image. It was about keeping the mystery alive. In the tomb, investigators discovered a box of confidential financial documents tucked away beneath Elvis's personal belongings. These files showed that Parker had continued signing licensing deals using Elvis's likeness for years after his death, under clauses that were unusually broad and open-ended. One clause in particular stood out. It allowed the estate to maintain controlled ambiguity around Elvis's legacy in perpetuity. Translation: they were legally allowed to lean into the mystery. A former Graceland employee later admitted, Parker once said, "Let them wonder. Dead men can't tour, but legends can sell forever." It was a stunning revelation that the same man who controlled Elvis's life may have also carefully designed the myth of his death, not by faking it, but by leaving just enough questions unanswered to keep the world talking. And it worked. For 50 years, people have debated wax bodies, hidden bunkers, sightings in Kalamazoo, all while the Presley brand grew into a $500 million legacy. But now, with the tomb opened and the truth laid bare, the illusion Parker built is beginning to crumble. Historians and fans alike are demanding more transparency. Was Parker truly preserving Elvis's image? Or was he hiding the truth for profit? What's clear is that Elvis wanted peace. What he got was a lifetime of pressure and a death shrouded in legend. As one biographer put it, Elvis wasn't a man to Parker, he was a product. But now, with every hidden item brought into the light, the world is beginning to see the man behind the music. And soon, even Elvis's twin brother Jesse would re-enter the mystery, a twist no one expected. The Jesse Garon twist. Twin spirit or secret switch? Just when it seemed all secrets were uncovered, one object reignited the oldest Elvis mystery, the story of his twin brother, Jesse Garon Presley. Officially stillborn on January 8, 1935, Jesse was gone within minutes. But conspiracy theories have long claimed he survived or even switched places with Elvis. During the tomb's opening, a silver locket was found, engraved with E and Gentinpa. To some, it was sentimental. But to others, it hinted at identity confusion. Elvis carrying Jesse not just in memory, but possibly in spirit or body. Elvis often spoke of feeling divided, once saying, "It's like I'm two people walking in the same boots." He explored spirituality, duality, and reincarnation, all tied to Jesse's loss. Experts say the trauma shaped his stage presence, pushing him to become larger than life. Could there have been a switch? No, say forensic teams, DNA, dental records, and childhood injuries confirmed Elvis Presley lies in the tomb. Still, the theory exploded online. As one fan wrote, "Even if Jesse didn't live, Elvis never let him die." Because maybe the mystery was never about a switch, but about a soul, always split in two. The king is gone, but the legend never dies. After the tomb was opened and DNA confirmed the truth, the world saw Elvis Presley not just as a legend, but as a man longing to be understood. Behind the rhinestones and the fame was someone craving peace, not from fans, but from the icon he became. The tomb didn't just hold a body, it held questions, heartbreak, and finally, answers. There was no fake death, no secret island, just a man who gave the world everything and quietly laid to rest beneath it. Strangely, it made him feel even more real and more loved. The letters, the locket, and the emotional messages to Priscilla told one story. Elvis wanted to be remembered not as a god, but as a good man. Fans gathered at Graceland, placing flowers, vinyls, and tears. One whispered, "He's not just in there, he's in all of us." The Presley estate opened the Elvis Humanity exhibit, but held back his most private treasures. "Elvis gave the world enough," the statement read. Yes, Elvis is gone, but the legend, the soul, the voice, they'll never be buried. Because he didn't just live music. He lived a story the world still isn't done hearing. The tomb is sealed again, but the truth can't be buried. Elvis Presley was more than a legend. He was a man with secrets, fears, and love. that still echoes. What Priscilla found wasn't just closure. It was a message to the world. The king may be gone, but he's never truly left.